Hello all, welcome to chapter 6 from the book of Judges. In the beginning of this chapter, we see the Israelites again did evil in the sight of the Lord. God therefore turned the Israelites into the hand of Midian for 7 years. The Midianites were so oppressive that the Israelites prepared shelters for themselves in mountain clefts, caves, and strongholds. Wherever the Israelites planted their crops, the Midianite and other eastern peoples invaded the country with their innumerable livestock and destroyed the crops. The Israelites were therefore reduced to starvation and cried out to the Lord for help. We then see God sends a prophet to the Israelites. The prophet said that God had brought the Israelites out of Egypt and given them security. However, the Israelites failed to obey God. We then see the angel of the Lord, that is God Himself, came and sat under the terebinth tree which was in Ophrah. Gideon threshed wheat in the winepress in order to hide it from the Midianites. God says to him that God was with him, and in response, Gideon says that the Israel's God had forsaken them. The Lord informs Gideon that Gideon will save Israel. Gideon says that he belonged to the weakest clan of Manasseh and doubts his abilities. God, however, assures Gideon that God was with him. Gideon requests God to give him a sign and also requests God to wait while he goes and comes back with an offering. God accepts his request and waits. Once Gideon comes back with the offering, God instructs Gideon to place the meat and unleavened bread on the rock and also pour out the broth. God then used the end of his staff to touch the offering, and a fire rose out of the rock and consumed the offering. Gideon realized that it was God whom he was speaking to and is frightened that he had seen God face to face. God, however, says not to fear, and Gideon built an altar there and called it, "The Lord is Peace." We then see the same night God instructs Gideon to tear down Baal's altar and strike down the wooden images. Gideon does the same with the help of 10 men and sets up an altar for God, and as per God's instruction also offers a burnt sacrifice with the wood of the images that were struck down. Gideon is afraid of the people there, therefore he does all of this during the night. The next morning, when the people of the city find that Gideon is the culprit, they ask Joash, who is Gideon's father, to bring Gideon out so that they could kill him. Joash in response says that if Baal was God, then it was not necessary for the people to defend Baal. Rather, Baal should defend himself. From that day, Gideon was called Jerub-Baal, which means let Baal defend himself. We then see all the Midianites and Amalekites, the people of the east, gathered together. The Spirit of the Lord came upon Gideon, and Gideon blew the trumpet and sent messengers, and an army gathered together comprising of the tribe of Manasseh, Asher, Zebulun, and Naphtali. We then see Gideon seeks a sign from God, asking God for assurance, and says that he would place a wool fleece on the threshing floor. If there is dew only on the wool fleece and all the ground was dry, then Gideon will know God was with him. The same happens next day morning. Towards the end of this chapter, we see Gideon seeks a sign from God once again, asking God for assurance. This time, Gideon says that the wool fleece should be dry while the ground had to have dew. The same happened the next day morning, convincing Gideon of God's assurance. This is how the chapter ends. I hope you have enjoyed the video. Until next time, may God be with us all. Bye bye.